Hey, y'all. Welcome to When Love Comes, the podcast. So, listen, I have got this passion for helping women to heal from the trauma of heartbreak, to learn how to have healthy relationships. And so, this podcast is part of that mission. People ask me, what is When Love Comes? Like, where did it come from? It's essentially a safe space for women of faith. I was one of those people that were in and out of unhealthy relationships and didn't really know where to turn to get information. I mean, I got it at church, I got it from my parents, but I just felt like the information was incomplete. So that's really why this podcast exists. So after three failed marriages, let me tell y'all something. I know a little bit about transition, healing, what healthy relationships are supposed to look like. And so that's why I'm here sharing this information with you guys. So, a little bit about me, I am a divorce recovery and relationship coach. Go figure. I really want to touch the women out there that are saying, April, I understand. I've been in your shoes, but honestly, I just don't know what to do next. So that's why we're here. So I am super excited about our topic today. When people ask me things like, how did you have three failed marriages? Well, a simple answer to that is I was in this cycle of unhealthy relationships, not knowing how to get out, not knowing how to expect something different, not knowing what different was supposed to look like. And so today I have an amazing woman who is on the show who's going to help me talk about those cycles, how to break them, how do we even get into them, how do we move forward. So I want to welcome to the show Tiffany Renee. Welcome, Tiffany.
Thank you so much.
I am so glad to have her here. So, y'all know if I have somebody on the show, they know what they're talking about. They've lived through the things we're talking about. But Tiffany isn't just someone who has been healed and delivered from those unhealthy relationships. She is a resilience and growth expert, y'all. I mean, that says it right there, right? So she's a life coach. She is a speaker. She is a social worker. She is a mental health professional. And then she also has this really amazing community called Whole Heart Foundation. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I just want y'all to, rest assured that Tiffany knows what she's talking about. So thank you again, Tiffany, for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. So, I am about transparency. I'm about being authentic. And so, you and I had a conversation probably 2 weeks ago. You had reached out to me based upon a post I had put on Facebook. And when we talked, I went, oh my goodness, like we need to have a talk. We need to have a talk because you and I have very similar journeys when it comes to relationships. So share with us just anything we think we should know about you, but how you began doing this work with women.
Yeah, so like you said, I graduated with my degree in social work. So that started my journey working with mostly women and helping them to just kind of reset their life and be the best version of themselves they can be, to be a great parent, to, be able to function and flourish in life effectively. Um, but then I started going through my own trauma. And I started having being in an abusive relationship, and I got divorced twice, and just my own personal trauma, which was kind of very not kind of very difficult to deal with, because
Mhm.
here I am helping other women get out of these type of toxic relationships, and I keep finding myself in them. Something's not
Something's not something that, as my daughter says, the math ain't mathing.
right. And so not only do I have the education and the experience, over 15 years experience doing this, I have lived it. So the passion is a bit different, because I had a toxic interior and my foundation was very rocky. It led me to poor relationships, and it led me to poor decision making in men, leading to failed relationships. We got to take accountability too.
That's right.
Poor decision making, and I was able, it was a fight, but I was able to break free from that. And so my desire is for every woman that I encounter to also experience that freedom.
Man, I love the boldness that you have to have this conversation. I love something that you said, accountability, right?
Mm,
Um, I tell people, I married the same man 3 times, but there
yeah.
was a reason. I had to figure out why I was picking the same type of person over and over again, right? I had to take accountability for those decisions that I was making. So I want to start off with, how do we identify, right? How does that woman identify that I've got a pattern or I've got a behavior? How do we identify that we're in a cycle?
I tell clients to let's check back. Everything you're saying sounds great, but let's see receipts. The past 3 to 5 relationships, I want to know, why did they end? That's
Hmm.
a telltale sign. If all
That
three men
huge.
cheated on you, if all 3 men put their hands on you, something, your picker's off.
Hmm.
I also want to see, how did you deal with the heartbreak? What did you do after each one? Did you leave all 3 of them, or was it a mutual decision? So you can really look back at your previous relationships and find patterns. What are some commonalities there? What makes these men similar? What was something that they all did to hurt you? Also, keeping with accountability, what is something that they all said that you do? That's also true. I would say, when I realized I was in a cycle, was after a man kicked me down to the floor and said something. So I'm gonna backtrack a little bit, so you
Hmm.
guys know when I realized I was in a cycle, and that's when I realized I need to do something, because this isn't right. So my second husband, he was physically abusive, mentally, verbally, all of that. And he used to like hover over me and like shake me and look me in my eye, and just be he would say really nasty things. And one of
Mm.
the comments that he made that I'll never forget is, I can see why those men put their hands on you.
Mm.
He didn't say men, he said the N word, but we
Yeah. Right.
can't say all that. But
Right.
yeah, I confided in him that
Mm.
I've been in an abusive relationship before, and he used that. And hey, right before he did the same thing, he let me know, I can see why these men did that to you. What did that do? That broke me emotionally. That was like, oh wow, he agrees with these men that did this to me,
Hmm.
and he's doing it too. Is something wrong with me? Right? So my self worth, everything just began to plummet, leaving me to stay in an unhealthy relationship a lot longer than I probably would, because it was just that rhetoric, like, nobody's gonna want you. You've got 3 kids now. You know, you're pretty much nothing. And
Yeah.
because my identity was tied up in being with a man and his wife, and I didn't know anything
Yeah.
outside of that. I didn't have any independence outside of that. I didn't know, I wasn't walking in my purpose. I aligned with what he said. Eventually I did get a divorce. I did break free from that, but then I got in a relationship with a guy, and this guy was completely different. This guy
Mhm.
was the big man, big chain, always in the clubs and doing all, spending money, anything I wanted. We're traveling. We're like best friends. So, of course, I never thought he would do anything like that. And
Right.
so, one night we got in a really big argument because I found out he was cheating on me with a whole bunch of women. And we were in the process of trying to see if we could get back together, see if we could make it work. We were still living together. But I broke, because even after begging me, please just take me back. I'll never do it again. And I'm going to show you that I'm going to make this work. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to see the work. I'm going to see it. I find out he buys a flight ticket for a woman to meet him in Miami, which is supposed to be a guy's trip.
What?
Yes. And he comes home, and I'm knowing this. I'm up waiting on him. And so he comes in, and I'm like, you really, I'm going off, I'm cussing and carrying on and stuff. Because at this point, I snapped. And then I even slapped him on taking accountability. Because, are you serious? Did you really just do this after you swore to God, and your
Yeah.
dead grandma? You just swore on them
Wow.
that you would never do this to me again, and you're still continuing in the behavior. And then he ended up getting so angry with me, he pushed me down to the floor and kicked me in my stomach. And I looked up and he looked me in my eye, blamed me for him hitting me. And he said, I can see why those other men put their hands on you. These are two different men,
Wow.
different in every way. One's light, one's dark. One's
Wow.
heavy, one's skinny. They're two different states, two different upbringings. They look nothing alike, they act nothing alike. But yet you said the same exact sentence my ex-husband said.
Yeah.
That's when I
Yeah.
woke up and I was like, oh no, 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 no. This is deeper than just me. This is spiritual. This is a cycle.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the same character. It's the same spirit. It's just like different body, different name,
Yeah,
but same character. Oh
exactly.
man. Man. Whoo. So as you were talking, I was thinking about something. When we get into these cycles, we think about, like you said, the things, what are you doing in the relationship? How are you allowing people to talk to you? Things like that. But I also think about how are we getting into the relationship and
Yeah.
why? When someone comes to me, because I coach women from healing after heartbreak, and some of them come back later and say, I feel like I'm ready to date, and I'll go, why? Right?
Hmm.
Why do you want a relationship? And so I want them to understand the healthy reasons for it. But I think about myself and my pattern. So I got divorced at 21, 31, and 41. Talk about a pattern.
Wow.
Every 10 years, I was in the same space. But what would happen is I would get divorced and I would be like, oh, I'm good. Like the pain would subside. I'm good. Life is great. I'm ready to date again. But what would happen was I would hit like this 3-year mark, and then loneliness, and then, my self worth, my self esteem, all these things that I never dealt with. I would then find myself saying, okay, subconsciously, I need someone to validate me,
Yeah.
right? I need someone to fill that void. So I would find someone to fill that void. We usually get married within a year, and then 2 to 3 years later we're divorced again. So it was in that in between that I would get caught up. I wouldn't get help, and it would just be like, okay, in this dating season I keep doing the same thing. I keep dating for the same reason. I keep trying to fill voids with these men. So not even like getting in the relationship, but it was like in those single times I was doing all the wrong things, everything wrong.
I definitely relate to that. And that's why once I realized I needed to break this cycle for real this time, I focused on my healing. I focused on who am I? Because I was that last one, I was so heartbroken, I questioned my existence because I was so
Yeah.
codependent on him. I felt like I couldn't live without this man.
Hmm.
My identity was wrapped up in being with a man, being
Yeah.
loved. That's how I got my validation. See, somebody loves me. See,
Hmm.
I'm in a relationship. See,
Yep.
you know, a lot of times, and I believe society has a lot to do with it too. Like, why
Come
aren't
on.
why are you still single? Why are you in a relationship? Why aren't you in a relationship? There's pressure that we get from family and social media, and it's just like, and then that inner desire to belong, to be loved. And so, if
Yeah.
that foundation is rocky, like we talked about before, if you don't love yourself, if you don't have identity in something else greater than you, if you don't have a purpose that you're passionate about, that you're walking in, then you'll easily cling to anything that wants you
Yes.
without making sure that that thing is healthy for you. So I always tell clients to focus on your healing, because if you date now, it's going to be pointless,
Yeah.
because who you desire, who you're attracted to when you're broken is completely different from the kind of man you're attracted to when you're healed. You don't even know who you're going to be. You don't even know what the
Yeah.
healed version of you really looks like. So if you pick somebody in this broken version of you just because you need comfort, because you need something warm next to you
Mhm.
may not match where you're at when you heal. Like
Yeah.
when I think about how broken I was with after him, I started off wrong. I admit that. I started trying to like get attention. I mean, I had like nothing on Instagram. I was outside. I'm very
Right.
transparent.
Right.
Because
Doing the most.
oh, doing the absolute most because
Yep.
I needed attention. I wanted validation. I'm single now. Like I told y'all this was it, and that was not. I'm ashamed. I'm embarrassed. So let me, I'm talking to just anybody. If you look like you had
Yeah.
money, hey.
Yeah.
And I'm just dating and having fun, and I'm not focused on what I needed to do as far as healing. I just
Yeah.
wanted to drink and forget the pain and party and do all
Yeah.
of this. And then once I started, like, okay, no, I need to heal because I am so unhappy. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
who flies me out here, it doesn't matter what
Mhm.
someone buys me. I am unhappy at the end of the day and I am broken. And so I'm working on myself. I'm fasting, I'm praying, listening to different sermons and different speakers, motivational speakers about the healing process and what a healthy relationship looks like.
Mhm.
I'm putting myself out there to do the research, to do the work. I went to therapy. I'm talking to someone about how I feel and learning, trying to get rid of what's bad and put in healthiness inside of me.
Yeah.
So I'm no longer listening to things that agree with my toxicity. Certain songs, certain friends
Yeah.
are like, oh no, girl, come on. I can't, I have to separate myself from all of that if I was serious about breaking this cycle. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you really just have to make the decision, and it's a fight. You have to
Yeah.
fight for your freedom. You don't just wake up and say, oh, I'm healed.
That's
I'm
absolutely right.
okay. Yeah. But who I am now is completely different than who I was years ago after that failed relationship. And if I would have dated and married somebody in that state, they would not be okay with me traveling internationally and talking to women and doing all these different events. That type
Yeah.
of man that I was dating was the type of man that wants his woman home.
Mhm.
Home, you're not doing nothing. You need to help me with my business. And at that time, I was okay doing that. I was like, God, I
Mhm.
don't want to do all this stuff that you talking to, giving me dreams about stuff. I just want to be somebody's wife. I want to be a kept woman. I'm good. I'll help him with his business. That's the family business. That if I made that decision and really went through with that, I wouldn't
Mhm.
be who I am today. I wouldn't have made the
Yeah.
impact. My voice wouldn't have gone out to women who needed it.
Yeah. Yeah. You did the work. That's when I share with people my journey and they're like, "Man, April, how did you get to the place to where you can now talk about those experiences without the shame and the guilt and, the other emotions that come with that?" Is, we do the work. But
Mhm.
before we can do the work, we got to take a step back and understand how we got to where we are, right? So
Yes.
I equate a lot of times our healing process is like walking to the mailbox and you keep tripping on something, right?
Mhm.
You have to take a moment and go, wait a minute, what do I keep tripping on? Because
Mm,
if not, I'm going to keep tripping in the same space. And that's what that
yeah.
cycle feels like is I keep tripping over the same thing. And in order for us to stop tripping over that thing, we got to figure out what it was. How do we go around it? How do we go over it? How do we avoid it? Whatever it may look like. And so I want to talk a little bit about how do we get into those cycles. So when I went through my third divorce in 2019, it was the first time that I went to true therapy, right? So I would do I think I went to therapy after my second one. She gave me a book to read and I was like, I'm good. Like I'm healed. The
Yeah.
problem with that though is that in many cases when things don't hurt anymore, we think we're healed, but we're not.
Yeah.
Because we feel like we don't feel the pain, we don't understand that there are roots attached to those cycles. There are roots attached to those decisions and until we uproot those things, they are just going to come back around. It reminds me of a tree that may lose its leaves at a certain time of the year. And you're like, oh, those leaves are gone. I'm good. But then those leaves grow back and you're like, oh, I don't know what to do with this. And
Yeah.
so what are how does our past, how does previous traumas,
Mhm.
how does our upbringing, how do some of those things affect us and almost, for lack of better words, guide us into those unhealthy decisions and unhealthy cycles?
Yes, it that's where it stems from. Whatever you were lacking in life, that's what you seek. And you'll seek it so much to the point where you disregard all the other red flags because you're not concerned about that. It's just this one thing I need that I've never received. And if you show
Yeah.
me you have it, we'll work through everything else,
Mhm.
not knowing that everything else could be the very thing that harms you and breaks you even more. And now the next relationship, you're seeking that one thing you were looking for plus something else that you weren't getting in that, and it just continues and continues. So for me, growing up in a Caribbean household, I didn't get the gentle parenting. I didn't get the, oh, you're doing a great job. We're so proud of you. I didn't get like the nurturing, the intense hugs and the just just really support. You're doing something at school. I'm showing up for you. I'm doing this. I'm proud of you. I'm validating you. I didn't get that, so that's what I was seeking. So because I didn't get that growing up, my self esteem has always been low. And there'll be times where I feel like, oh, I'm good on that now. I conquered that, but it'll show back up
Mhm.
constantly. And so what did I look for? I looked for love from men because I didn't feel the love that I needed at home. So as soon as someone was like, "Oh, you're so beautiful," and "Oh, I like how you did that," you did.
I'm laughing because, girl, you were literally telling my life right now.
So whatever it is that we've lacked growing up or lacked
Mhm.
in the first marriage or something, that is what we look for. It even shows up really in your love languages.
Yeah.
If let's say your whole life physical touch was your love language, but in your last relationship or marriage you never got quality time, you guys never, he was busy all the time, y'all never had
Yeah.
quality time. So then the next relationship you're going to focus on getting quality time.
Mhm.
You're not really going to focus on the other stuff, right? It's going to be
Yeah.
all about quality time. So he may give you great quality time because guess what, he don't really work like that.
Right.
His job is not demanding. He doesn't have a business. He doesn't have any aspirations. He's fine where he's at. But
Yep.
now you're seeing other stuff. Like he gives me all the quality time I want, but now I'm aggravated because he doesn't touch me. Now I'm
Yep.
aggravated
Come on.
because I'm trying to build my career and go higher. And he just like, you don't got to do all that. Just stay where
Right.
you're at. Like, his mindset. You were so focused on finding somebody who has time for you, so much time for you, that you fail to pay attention to the other things.
Yeah. Yeah, that is so true how we will emotionally overcompensate for
Hmm.
that void in our life. My story is very similar in the sense when I went to therapy for real, the first thing she asked me, she was like, "Tell me about your childhood." And I was like, "I'm not here about my childhood. I'm here because I've been divorced 3 times." And she said, "Tell me about your childhood."
Hmm.
And what I didn't realize in that moment that there were so many touch points of my upbringing that distorted my vision and my identity, and it was directly related to why I chose certain people. So for me, my parents had me very young. My mother was in high school, my dad was just out of high school. My mother ended up being a drug addict. And so living with her, a couple things. One, I had to be an adult very quickly. So I
Hmm.
had to kind of control the environment. There really wasn't this sense of motherly love, right? And so I never truly felt loved. And then I began to feel unloved because people would say things like, "You're just going to be like your mother." Okay, all right. Well, I don't know what that means, but it doesn't feel good. And
Hmm.
then growing up between my parents, I was kind of bounced around a lot. So I would be somewhere during the summer, then I live with a parent during the year, then one time I went to live with my grandparents. So I never felt like I belonged. I never knew where I fit. And so then you start having these men that approach you, and it's, but I love you. And I knew deep down inside, like, this doesn't feel right, but you love me.
Yeah.
And I had never felt loved like that, right?
Yeah.
Or it was, you belong with me. Well, now I found a place that I belong,
Yeah.
not really knowing how detrimental it was for me. But like you said, those areas where we have the void, that is where we're going to seek it out. And unfortunately, it's going to be in a unhealthy space versus a healthy space. A
Yeah.
big part of that, and I want to dive into this now because you said it earlier, is knowing our identity, right?
Mm.
I, until I was 42, didn't really know who I was. The majority of my life, I spent living out of what other people thought I was. So people would say, "Oh, you're good at this. This is what you should do in your career. Oh, I think you're this. This is what you should be. This is who you should be." And so it wasn't until I was 42 and went on my own healing journey with God to understand, who am I? Flaws and all. There would be
Yeah.
times that I prayed to God, take away my voice, because people told me I talk too much. Like,
Wow.
literally, I prayed. I remember one day, it was praise and worship, and I said, "Lord," I said, "just take away my voice." And
Mm.
God, clear as day, he said, "No." He said, "I created you the way I created you for a reason, and I will not change you."
Mm.
And I didn't know then, this was, gosh, 12, 13, 14 years ago. I didn't know then how much I would be using my voice now. The thing
Wow.
that people said, "You talk too much." I would use my voice for hate. I was one of those women. I'm an Aries. I'm one of those women that, my voice can cut like a knife. But I didn't know my identity. I didn't know how to use it.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about, how did you discover your identity? How did you get to the place to saying, "You know what, I know who I am now"? What did that journey look like to you?
So I had to go back. So before my first marriage, I was really heavy in the church. I was a youth pastor. I was always just helping women and girls. I
Mhm.
knew, I would say, about as soon as I graduated, about 21, 22, I just remember having this thought, like, I always attract women. I mean, just random women would come up to me, tell me their whole life story, and I'm ministering to them or I'm counseling them. And that be it. So I'm like, okay, God, whatever it is you want me to do, I know it's something pertaining to helping women, to pouring into women and teenage girls. And so, time goes on. I get divorced. I leave the church, experiencing church hurt and everything like that. I left all that to the side. I was like, I don't want nothing to do with that.
Mm,
I'm good.
preach
Y'all
it.
got it. Y'all got it.
Yep. Yep. Been there.
Yeah. And so I'll never forget when I finally gave God my yes, I was like, look, I keep doing this wrong. I keep getting in the same relationship with the same people. I give up. I'm gonna let you drive. I'm gonna sit back and just let you take control this time. Because if I keep doing the same thing over and over again, that's what insanity.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so I started praying about, what is it that you want me to do. I want to do what it is you want me to do, and he was like, "Stop your business." I was like, "Excuse me, what?"
Like, huh, what, guy? What?
I don't think I heard you. And yeah, he told me to put that down and to wait for instructions, and he would tell me what to do. And what I was doing was, I'm Caribbean, and so I was selling costumes. I'm throwing parties and concerts, and which is another reason why I was around a certain type of men that I'm
Mhm.
around, and attracting the certain type of men that I'm attracting because of what's in me. You're a magnet.
Mhm.
And so anything that's within me, even if it's unhealthy, I'm going to track back what's in me. And
Yeah.
so I'm doing all that. And he was like, stop. I was making money. Okay. I was like, all right, I'm going to try it. I'm going to try a thing. I'm going to see how it works. And so he started bringing me back dreams and visions that I used to have about doing this women's expo. I just He gave it to me when I was in an abusive relationship. And so I thought, there's no way I could ever do something like that. That's too good. I'm here. There's no way. I'm not equipped for that. Nobody would come. Nobody would want to see me. It's just me. I'm not, you know. And so he gave it to me, and those feelings, they started coming back.
Mm.
I have not been here long. I don't know that many people. Who's really gonna want to come to an event that I host? But he was like, just do it. And so I started being obedient. I filed the business with the state, and I'm coming up with a flyer. I have this journal, this notebook I would take everywhere. I'm taking notes. I went to an event, even though I've been throwing events for years, this is a different type of event. This is not a club or a party, a concert,
Hmm.
a women's empowerment event. So I needed to learn a little bit more. So I took a class, I'm taking notes, I started inviting people. And I'm telling you, now I'm like, wait a minute, this is easy. It was a lot of work, but it's
Yeah.
flowing. Like I'm just the connections. He's putting me in connection with people that didn't even know why they were helping me, but they were helping me. They were like, "Yeah, you got to do this. You got to do this. Go talk to this person. I'm gonna help you with this. I'll sponsor. I'll help. I'll bring you this." And I'm just like, "Wow!" Stuff just started happening, and I'm like, "Okay, now I know I'm in my purpose because it's just flowing." And not only that, I'm passionate about it. I'm passionate about helping women get the resources they need to help them transform their lives, to help them better themselves. And another way I knew this was my identity and this was my purpose was because everything that I went through was not wasted and was being utilized now.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
pain I felt in the relationships, now I'm relatable. I can relate to broken women because that was me. Number two, my social work experience. That's what I do. Give resources to women, help you be your best
Yeah.
self, give you actionable steps to become the best version of yourself. So it's not just I'm coming from a place of ministry, which is my faith. Even I got that background, that's being utilized too. My faith, but plus works, my background in
Mm.
church work and ministry, my experience and education is all coming together. Even that first business where I had to create a business website, flyers, host events, all of that is being used. The workshops I used to do for women, all of that is being used right now. And I'm so passionate about it. And that's when I was like, okay, this is Tiffany Renee. This is Tiffany. This is my purpose. So now when I get into a relationship, I'm not depending on somebody else for my happiness. I get so
Yes.
much joy out of helping others because that's tied to my purpose. It makes me happy when the light comes on for a woman. That brings so much joy to my soul. And now when I date, it's going to be completely different. But if I
Yeah.
had a relationship after that, like I continuously did, I was never single more than like 4 months, ever,
Mm.
from since like middle school, like ever. I was never single long. Even if I was single, best believe I was talking to somebody.
Right. Right.
So,
Or had a roster somewhere.
oh yeah, that roster stayed tight.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. And so this time, again, I did it God's way. I focused on myself, not just focus on healing, but focus on what kind of things do you like to do. That helped me
Yeah.
too. I started going on Groupon, like let me just try different things, different activities until I figure out which one I like. This is all a
Hmm.
part of learning yourself, being happy with yourself, taking myself out to eat, treating myself to get my hair and
Oh,
my nails
girl.
done, and going to a movie, taking myself on a date. So
Hmm.
now, guess what? When I meet somebody, if he's not treating me at least at the standard that I'm treating me, we don't have anything to talk about.
Girl, amen. 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 So, funny story. This was a couple years after my divorce when I knew that I had been healed. I knew who I was.
Yeah.
I had gone out with this guy against my better judgment because, like in my mind, I was like, I know, I already know. But we're sitting out, we're sitting at dinner, and y'all don't judge me, but this real life here. We're sitting at dinner, and like halfway through, he just stops and he looks at me and he says, "April." He goes, "You know what?" He goes, "I just feel like you just might be too good for me." And I looked up and I said, "I think you're right."
Oh my God.
And I mean, come on now. If that ain't God speaking to you, come on.
Yes. Oh my
I
God.
mean, he was like, yeah, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna have to agree with you, sir.
He
I
made it
think I
easy
am
for
too good for you. And it wasn't from a place of like, I'm better than you per se, but I knew who I was then.
you.
And so when you know who you are, when you are
Yeah.
strong in your God-given identity, then when someone like that comes across your path,
Hmm.
there's no reason to waste your time. There's no reason to entertain. I don't even know why I was out to dinner with him, but I just remember that so vividly. It was so funny.
That is
So
hilarious.
one of the things I want to share with women, I have kind of a, I want to call it a system methodology for how do you start that process of healing, of breaking the cycle. And it's
Hmm.
really three things that I share. The first one, which we talked about earlier, it is telling the truth, being accountable,
Yes. Yes.
right? When we put an address in the GPS, the first thing it's going to ask us is, where are you at now?
Hmm.
Because I can't tell you where you want to go until you know where you are now. And so that's the first thing, is us being honest and saying, you know what, something is broken,
Yeah.
something is unhealed, and being honest about that with ourselves.
Hmm.
Secondly, is then asking for help,
Yeah.
right? Um, I truly believe that God did not call us to do life alone, that we are
Exactly.
supposed to do life in community. And
Hmm.
so I believe in having that circle of care, and that could be friends and family, that
Yeah.
could be professionals, spiritual advisors, coaches, whatever that looks like. But when we are ready to make lasting change, we're going to need help. We're going to need
Absolutely.
help from people who know what they're doing, like Tiffany, who's like, I've been through this. And then lastly, you got to do the work. You know,
Yes.
that is the part that I feel like we get stuck in.
Hmm.
Is God will say, "Okay, this is what you need to do next." And we go, "But I don't want to do that because I might be lonely if I do that. If
Hmm.
I get out of that business, then all of my friends are there. My
Yeah.
family might not understand. If I start doing things differently than the crowd that I've been doing them with for 20 years, I might be alone." And
Hmm.
so that is the place that I feel like we need the most support, is when we're taking those next steps.
Yes.
So, what did or who did you have, Tiffany, in your life, and who do you have now that kind of keeps you going to make sure that you don't fall back into those cycles?
Yeah, so I have two of my best friends are my accountability partners.
Mhm.
They are and that is like the number one thing women have to do, because when you are broken, when you are hurting, a
Mhm.
lot of times you run right back to the thing that hurt you, because that is what you feel the most intertwined with, the most closest with, is the thing that hurt you. So I would have panic attacks because this man cheated on me and I'm laying down on him trying to get comfort, and he's the reason.
Right.
It's just, that's naturally, especially if there's like a
Mhm.
soul tie involved, you just are going to run back to it. So you have to be real with your therapist, your coach, your friends, like, hey, this is my goal, is to heal. I'm tired of being in this cycle, I'm tired of being broken, I need you to hold me accountable. And
Yeah.
so being real, being transparent, I would text like, hey, I'm having a moment. They'll call me, they'll come over, let's go out to eat. And so, just so I don't text somebody to come over,
Come on. Look,
just so I don't
that
go over
is
there.
real talk though,
Yeah,
Tiffany.
yeah.
That's real talk.
It is. It's very hard to break away, because those feelings of loneliness, those feelings
Mhm.
of belonging, when you're breaking away from that, it's just like, it's an addiction essentially. And it's just like when
Mm.
you're addicted to cocaine or something, you're going to have a period of where you're experiencing withdrawals. That's
Yeah.
it's the same exact thing. And so you have to have a circle around you that
Mhm.
creates a barricade against
Yeah.
yourself, because when you are broken, you are drunk. That's how I try to explain it. You're drunk,
Mhm.
and so your decision making skills are poor, very poor.
Yeah.
And so you need to put somebody else. You need to move over to the passenger seat put somebody in the driver seat that
Yeah.
you trust, like you said, coaches, spiritual leaders, your friends, people that you trust to drive the car for you while you get yourself together, while you sober
Mhm.
up.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I love how even in a healed state, you still have that circle of care. I am
Oh,
very much
yeah.
the same way. I actually, about 5 months ago, at the time of this recording, ended what essentially was a very healthy relationship. It was one of the healthiest relationships that I had ever been in.
Hmm.
But I knew that there were some key elements that were missing, and I had a choice to make. I could have said, "Man, this relationship is great, and I know these key things are missing, but that's okay. That's all
Yeah,
right. I don't need those things." But that would have been April 5, 10, 15 years ago. And
exactly.
it was because of me having the trusted circle, the women that pray for me, those, women I can call at 2 o'clock in the morning, my life coach, therapist that said, "Okay, let's take a look at this.
Hmm.
This is a good relationship." But
Yeah.
I do believe that there are times when God is going to have us say no to good things so that He
Yes.
can bring us great things.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, even though those things are good, I felt like God was saying, "But I have something different from you."
Yeah.
And
It's
it would have been the
good. It's not
easy
good
thing.
for you.
Yeah. It
Hmm.
would have been the easy thing to say, "But this is good. It
Yeah.
feels good." But I knew God was saying, "I got something else for you. I
Yeah.
got something else for you." So it's doing that work, it's having the accountability. It is being honest and open with ourselves about where we're at so that we can break those cycles.
Yes.
So, Tiffany, before we close,
Hmm.
I just want you to, if there's a woman listening saying, "Man, like this hit home, I've never looked at cycles this way." Hearing from two people who were very transparent, what kind of final words would you have for them?
I would say that, oh, there's so much to say. Let me think of one thing. There's so much to say. I'll just pour out all day.
And
But
we could talk all day. So,
I'm telling you. But I would say to prioritize you for the first time. A lot of times we go in cycles because it could be people pleasing. We just don't want, we want to hold on to something that loves us, whether it's not even real love. If it looks anything like love, if it resembles anything like that, we want to hold on to it even if it's bad for us. And we'll pour so much of ourselves as women. We just naturally do that. We're natural nurturers, and we just naturally give more. And sometimes that's like a playground for a narcissist or somebody who wants to take advantage of you, right? And
absolutely.
so for the first time, I want you to put yourself first. I want you to give yourself the love that you keep pouring out to others who don't deserve it. And what does that look like? That looks like being honest with yourself. That looks like seeking a life coach or a therapist. That looks like being single for a period of time and dating you,
Yeah.
finding out how dope you are, finding out how gifted you are, finding out how amazing you are, dating yourself. And then once you realize how dope you are, you're like, okay, yeah, I'm her. And you're going to date a man and seek a man that is worthy of her. So
I
that's
love
what.
it.
Mhm.
I love it. So, Tiffany, share with the listeners where they can connect with you. I tell everyone on on this podcast, I don't gatekeep y'all. I'm a life coach. Tiffany and I may work with similar women, but if you're a woman that has heard Tiffany today and you feel like, you know what, I resonate with her, Tiffany, let them know where they can reach you.
Yes, you can find me at Tiffany Renee, RENE, just one.org. I'm also on all social media platforms at here, the number two, empower, because that's what I'm here to do, here to empower. And you can also email me at I am here to empower at gmail.com. I also wrote a book I would love for you to check out. It's called This is Freedom.
All right, y'all. So listen, go connect with Tiffany. I'll have her information in the show notes so that you guys can connect with her. follow her. Like I said, I don't randomly choose guests for this show. I talk to them. I choose guests that I feel like resonate, that really have a voice, and really have something to say. So, Tiffany, thank you again for being my guest.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, y'all. So listen, thank you again for sticking around with us for another episode of When Love Comes. Like I said at the beginning, my heart really is to prepare women for healthy love so that they don't have the experiences that I've had. They don't have the experiences that Tiffany has had. So when you guys are done listening to this, I want you to hop over to whenlovecomes.com. There's a bunch of resources over there. Join the community. And I want you guys to get out there and take care of yourself. Get out there, put yourself first so that you are ready when love finds you. Bye.